Hi guys, this is Katie Benschoten, the president and founder of Certum Solutions here in Monroe, North Carolina, and we've got a treat for you today. We are going to talk about contractors, what they are, what you need when you sign one up, how you can do a payment voucher when you make a payment to them, okay? When it comes to contractors, and before I get started, if you like this kind of content, make sure you like this video so I know this is the kind of thing I need to do more of. If you want to be alerted to updates and new videos on our channel, make sure you subscribe for me too. I love seeing that subscriber count tick up. Obviously, I'm kind of OCD about it. Also, if you have questions about this video, leave me a comment. Today's video is actually inspired by a viewer comment. They said, how do I do a payment voucher report for a contractor? So I thought we're going to tackle that today, okay? We've got a lot of contractor deadlines coming up for tax purposes. You've got your 1099s you're getting out, and you've got the rest of it. And if you put some best practices in place throughout the year, now should not be the lift it probably is for a lot of us, right? So many of us in business, we sign the contractors up, we just need something done, right? And then it comes to the end of the year and you're like, what is this thing, this 1099 thing? I have to get them signed up for 1099s, which means I have to do a W9. And then I have to get that filed and get my 1099s out. And then it's like in the middle of January. Well, guess what? They're probably getting a million requests for these, right? So getting back to you with that W9, if you're still in contact, can even be a little bit difficult. So we have some tips. Make sure, though, that you know this is edutainment. I've got some information for you, but make sure you're following up with your own advisors, your attorneys, your accountants, and that you get these things in place with the help of a really trusted advisor, okay? So let's go ahead and get started. I did a couple brief slides to cover what we're going to talk about, but then I'm going to go ahead and cut over to our demo environment, and we're going to take a look at how we set a contractor up and how you can run that payment report, okay? So let's see if we can't get this going. All right. So things to remember about contractors. A contractor cannot be confused with an employee. They are two different things. You need to be very aware of the differences between each. Okay, you treat them differently. They handle their business differently. Just conflating the two is not good business practice. So make sure you've got a policy in place beforehand on what the differences are and what you need to do, whether you're onboarding an employee or onboarding a contractor. Also, something a lot of people don't realize is if you have like a small business where there may be more than one person there, that could also require them to have a 1099. People like landlords or attorneys. A lot of times they are attorneys all the time. They need a 1099, and sometimes thresholds don't even matter. Okay. So before we get started, I should also say this is focused on contractors in the 1099 NEC, which used to be the 1099M. The M's used for other things now. You want to take a look at the NEC. And we're going to focus this on the software, but if you have questions about any of this, you know where we are. I love the comments, and please also reach out to me. My email should be in the description. Okay, so contractors are not employees. You need to be aware of the differences. We talked about that. The IRS actually publishes a really helpful checklist so you can determine which they are, and you need to look at all the factors at from a cumulative point of view. Don't just pick and choose from certain things, okay? We highly recommend instituting a contractor onboarding process. Wow, look at me with the processes, right? That's what I do. That may include, and this may not be everything. So again, this is where that trusted advisor comes into play, okay? Requesting a W9 so you have it for the year end. So you're not requesting it in January. How many of us are requesting them in January? Thankfully, I don't think we are, but you know, there was a time, you know, I got kind of caught. So it happens to the best of us. Requesting those through the year makes things way more easy. And here's a little tip: request them before you send the first payment or you do business with them. Because once you send that payment, especially if it's a one-time payment, sometimes they're not as incentivized to get that W-9 back to you, okay? Determining whether the contractor is subject to backup withholding. In certain cases, contractors may be required to have backup withholding, and the IRS has some guidelines on when that will happen, okay? And I do have links in my slides, and I'll make sure that they're in the description too. Having a contract, invoice, or other document that outlines payment terms, invoicing frequency, and other relevant details. This is something that your attorney is great for. You want to make sure you lay down the ground rules and that you guys have this as a communication tool just as much as a legal document, so that you have that relationship defined and you know what you're expecting and what they expect. Okay. Discussing with your attorney if an NDA, a non-solicit agreement, any other agreements should be in place, especially if they're going to be privy to trade secret or private information. You have to understand that your business information, especially if you're in professional services, things like that, that is trade secret. That is private to your company. When you trust someone to see that information, you need to set things in place along with your attorney to protect yourselves, okay? I feel strongly about this as a business owner, but again, I'm going to push you to the attorney because this is not legal advice. So requesting copies of insurance, such as a workers' compensation insurance. You see this a lot in construction, but you see it a lot, you need it in just about every place. If you're under an audited workers' compensation policy and you have contractors that are doing work for you and you don't have proof of their workers' comp certificates or deck page or whatever, you may be required to cover them for workers' comp. So save yourself some money. Make sure that you're collecting this when you launch the relationship, okay? And renew it every year, okay? Also, liability, other relevant insurance. Put on your business hat. Think about where the risk is and what you need to have covered. And again, speak to your accountants and your attorneys about which ones you feel like should be in place. I give a couple examples here, but depending on your industry and what they're going to be privy to, each situation is different. So make sure that you talk to your relevant advisors. Also, it seems really basic, but requesting contact and payment information such as wire or direct deposit instructions, addresses, how do you reach them, and the rest, okay? Make sure that when you start hiring contractors, you have an onboarding SOP or standard operating procedure in place, and it's documented within your business. This is part of how you're going to work. And one of the things that I strongly feel makes a strong business is having things documented as simple as possible and turnkey, okay? Don't overcomplicate things, but also make sure you have things so routine you can train people to help you with it. Because as business owners, and I know I'm getting on my soapbox a little bit here, so many of us get pulled into minutia because we don't have streamlined procedures for our team, okay? So if you have streamlined procedures, people can help you because it's not your job to do the minutia. Wow, I can't talk. It's your job to run and grow your business, okay? And by doing so, you're operating as a good steward for your business, for your employees, and for the stakeholders that you have. When you're getting tagged in and doing tiny things that shouldn't require your work, that's wasting your potential and your business's potential, and it's not providing the ROI you could experience by putting your time, which is a resource, into efforts and projects that need it the most, okay? So that's me getting off my soapbox, okay? I say this with much empathy because I do this all myself. But that's my pep talk as we go into the new year. So let's go ahead and kick over. We're going to say how to set up a contractor in QuickBooks Online, okay? So let me see if I can't pull this up. And we're just going to click out of here. Oh, wait, I should have stopped it over here. 1 second. That's my show. Here we go. So, and I'm launching randomness. Okay. Okay, here we go. Okay, so let's go ahead and start off on our main client overview. We're in our very popular Certum Cubo Advanced Demo. And to get to the contractor section, we'll go down here to, and I think actually it's under payroll, to contractors, which as an accountant, I don't really like that contractors are under payroll because of what we talked about before. To me, they should be under expenses, but it is what it is. To add a new contractor, you just click this button, add a contractor. And I'm going to put in here, test contractor. Okay. And we're going to put in an email here. Okay. And we're going to hit add contractor. Now you see this box, it says email this contractor to complete their profile. They'll get their own account to safely share personal details. That slide I went over with best practices on it, this knocks out a couple of those things. It knocks out the contact information and the W9, which you have to have in order to do the 1099. Okay. Add contractor. Wow. Okay. So let me go ahead and put in my verification. Okay. Okay, so we have test contractor here. You can write a check. You can also pay, if you have a payroll subscription with QuickBooks, you can also pay with direct deposit, okay? A lot of our contractors love this because then it's overnight. So rather than losing checks in the mail, I have one singular client that still sends me paper checks. Rather than losing checks in the mail and dealing with float times and the rest of it, you're just sending an ACH payment. They get paid the next day and everybody loves it. Okay. So moving on from there, this says personal details are they're waiting for info. Okay. You can also, so we'll do save. If you want to fill this out yourself, so say something that happens sometimes, you say request them to fill this out and they go, well, I didn't see the email, or maybe they're not completely tech savvy and they need some help. Okay, you can fill this out for them. Just make sure you get a copy of their signed W9 before you do so. And this asks for all their contact information. There are businesses that are contractors, okay, unless they're incorporated, like an S Corp or a corporation. Different types of businesses will still need a 1099 NEC. So you need to know which ones those are, and they are in the 1099 instructions for the IRS. Okay, so I'm giving you some homework here. So we're going to hit save. Oh, whoops, I'm going to X out, never mind. So then payments here, you've got payment history here, and you've got documents. So we've got your W9, which is going to be attached there. Okay. Now you can do create, you can actually, okay, first off, I'm going to not get ahead of myself. I'm going to write a check to our test contractor. Okay. So we've got a check. We are doing a paper check, but do what I say, not as I do, as my mother told me on occasion. So we're going to go ahead and pick job labor costs. Okay, and I'm going to put $250 here. Now, a lot of times if you are working with contractors, you may want to make this billable. If these fields are not visible to you, it could be because you're on a different version of QuickBooks. It could also be because it's not turned on in your preferences, okay? And I always push, make sure you always set up your preferences as soon as you set up your QuickBooks so that you don't have to deal with missing stuff. Okay, so here's billable, what's your markup, what's the tax? If you do have it assigned to a customer, which customer? Do you have a class for it? Okay, classes, as we've talked about several times, are a way to slice and dice your reports from a horizontal perspective. Okay, now, one of my favorite features of QuickBooks is that you can add an attachment. So if they give you an invoice, add the invoice. If you have a contract for them, add the contract. You know why I love attachments? Because you're not fishing through a server or a file server or wherever trying to find these things going, what did I name it again? It is directly attached to the transaction itself, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and hit save and close. Okay. Yes. Okay. So you can see we're still in Contractors. We can see payments here. This was done with a check, okay? So if we want to hit a payment or a payment document or a voucher for this person, it's kind of hard to do so from here because we're in the Contractor section, okay? See, I'm clicking on it. You can see me clicking, and I don't know why it's kind of sticky there, but you can't really open it. So what you'll want to do is go over to your expenses, go to your vendors, because they're really a vendor. I'm not exactly sure why QuickBooks loops them in payroll, but far be it from me to pick on things. So here's our test contractor. Look at this. This is the check we just ran. Okay, so you can then run this voucher check from here. You can hit print check. Yes. And if you voucher checks, it will print it on the bottom of the stub, right? You can also preview and print. Oh, wait. Okay. Look at the bottom. It's got two sections. If you have those 3-section check stubs, it's got those 2 other sections that you can then print off. It doesn't mean that how do I say this? It doesn't mean that you're printing it on paper. You can also save this as a PDF. We can also set up reports in QuickBooks that will also show you a report on what you paid this vendor or this contractor, okay? On those custom reports, I will go ahead and draft one real quick, and I will share it with you in just a moment. Sorry, I'm not a master of the elegant transitions, but hopefully we can edit this a little bit and it goes over a little easier. One moment. So whenever you're running your report or you're running your check and you want another way to do a stub other than using the print check function, you can also hit more and transaction journal, okay? Okay, this will bring up also a breakdown of what this payment was for. And if you have multiple line items on the stub, it will include those as well. Okay. Okay. I think that has us covered. Before I go, I do want to also revisit the setup of our contractor. So let me go over to expenses because it just hit me that in my excitement, I don't think I may not have gone through everything I wanted to go through. Okay, so let's go ahead and edit here. Okay, so you will also notice that the contractor payment section and the vendor setup section may look a little bit different. To me, I prefer working in the vendor section, but when I'm doing payments out, sometimes it's nice to go to the contractor section. If you're doing a direct deposit payment, you have to use the contractor section under payroll, okay? So here's where we added our contact information again. And then if you have a contract, all those onboarding documents, anything for onboarding that we talked about before, you can actually add them to the vendor listing instead of the transaction listing. So to me, I would add contracts, things like that, insurance copies to the vendor listing. Then I would actually add like invoices and the rest of it to the payment itself, okay? And then here's their ACH information if you need to add that. And this is the big one I wanted to make sure I covered, and it hit me that I hadn't covered it. Make sure this box for track payments for 1099 is clicked. Otherwise, it won't show up on your 1099 reports, okay? We can go back through here. I do not like opening balance, so please don't use that. But you do have your option for custom fields down here if you have QuickBooks Advanced or above. And then you have some extra buttons here in case you need additional information on this company, okay? So these are just like shortcuts, okay? I think I covered everything. I hope the person that was asking for the payment stub for the contractor gets the answer they were looking for. If not, please let me know and I will redo it and answer whatever questions that you have. Thank you again for watching. Here's to a wonderful 2025. Thank you so much for all your viewing and loyalty over the years. Hopefully this is the best year ever. I feel like it will be. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.